Okay, thank you, Real Truth Talk. Um, okay, Scott. Yep, good to have you on again. So, I guess we'll get straight into it. So, first question I have is, with the British being possibly the most belligerent side towards Russia and one of the main suppliers of weapons and possible sabotage, if Moscow decided to hit back at London in response to things such as the Kerch Bridge or the supply of depleted uranium shells, what would be the most likely response? I mean, could they sink a warship, shoot down a military aircraft, or target something else? So, I mean, realistically, what could Russia do to um, prevent, or at least, do something to cause the British deep state to think twice before antagonizing them further?
Well, first of all, I think we need to understand that if Russia struck England, it's striking NATO, and there would be a NATO response to this. So, any idea, any notion that Russia could possibly think that it could, you know, retaliate against England and leave it at that is absurd. No Russian believes that. And so no Russian would consider it. Russia is in the business of escalation management, not in escalation. Escalation is what Ukraine wants. Escalation is what England wants. They are desperate to find a path forward that prevents what appears to be the inevitable Russian strategic victory. So um, I don't think Russia is contemplating striking England. If a situation came that Russia was to strike England, that would mean that a general war had broken out, and more than likely, the Russian strike would be nuclear in nature, and it would destroy London and all of England. So anybody in England who's thinking it would be a good idea to provoke Russia, understand it means you all die. Russia will die too, but Vladimir Putin has made it clear that he'll view the Russian deaths as being martyrs, and the British will just be scum-sucking pigs who promoted a war. Um, so I think people should be grateful that Russia's in the business of escalation management. England's been behaving abysmally, but the best retaliation sometimes is to let England sink its own ship, and that's what's happening right now. I mean, the British economy is a joke. Your infrastructure is crumbling. Your government is pathetic. Your military is shrinking. So you gave Ukraine a handful of Storm Shadow cruise missiles that maybe 2 times out of 10 hit their intended target. And sometimes when you hit a target, you kill a Russian general. Yay, England's a great country. You haven't stopped the Russian counteroffensive. You haven't broken the will of the Russian people. You haven't done any damage to the Russian military industry. All you've done is proven that you are a nation of irresponsible warmongers whose business is death. All the British people can pray for is that the Russians continue to be the mature, responsible nation that they are, and continue to focus their efforts on achieving their strategic victory in Ukraine, and then translating that into a new European security framework that will reduce the level of tensions between nations, not increase them.
Okay. So, I mean, would there be any? I think maybe I should have rephrased it. Not striking the territory of Britain, but like some warship out at sea in international waters, for instance.
Russia's not in the business of doing that. That's not how Russia operates. That's how the British operate. MI6 and the SAS sit there in their little secret cells and whisper, 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 and enable some guy to drive a truck onto the Kerch Bridge and blow it up. And they whisper, 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 and some drones fly and pop off the Kremlin. And they whisper, 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 and this happens and that happens. It's a game of whispers. I mean, that's really what England's become, a nation of whisperers. There was a time when the British were real, when they counted. The British Army on the Rhine was a big deal. Even during the Gulf War, the first one, The 7th Brigade was a legitimate thing. The 1st British Division was legitimate. The British could fight. You can't fight today. You don't have an army. You've got nothing. Zero. Squat. You gave away 14 tanks. Wow. The Russians are quivering as we speak. So the British have become a nation of whispers. Yes, Ben Wallace comes out and pontificates, but there's nothing to back him up. He just exposes himself, and frankly speaking, the nation he represents as a ship of fools. The Russians aren't going to sink a British ship. That's not what real nations do. Russia's a real nation. That's what little nations do. Pathetic nations, like, for instance, British.
Little Britain.
Yeah.